Hey YouTube, I'm Aaron and it's always sunny in the shop. Today we're talking about tools. I wanted to walk you around my shop and show you some of the things that I could definitely not live without. Let's turn the camera around and we'll check it out. So we started at what are probably the most used items in my shop, vices. So the little guy, baby bullet, doesn't get used that much, but it does get used for genuine vice purposes. And this guy here definitely gets used every single day. One project now that I have a milling machine that I want to tackle is to go ahead and get some copper bar stock and use the caps out of here and just make 2 new vice jaws for it out of solid copper. I think that would be a good project and certainly would help. That's something you can get the same opinion from Tom Lipton on. He always makes copper jaws for his vice for the same reason. Maybe even make some for this little guy. This little baby bullet came with 2 little homemade copper pads that go in between the metal jaws. And then I made this little base plate for this guy just so it's nice and stable and steady. That was, I guess, I think a 2-inch by 6-inch round piece of cold rolled steel. So anyway, that keeps this guy from wiggling or wobbling and allows me to still, knock it over completely on its side and hold something off, a long piece of tubing or whatever else. So anyway, there is useful tools number 1 in the shop. Got to have a good bench vise. This, by the way, is a Wilton C1. So this is about 77 pounds if I remember correctly. I bought new hardware for it. These are from a guy up in Colorado that makes Wilton Vice Parts. I think that's his website actually, wiltonviceparts.net. And what else did I do with this thing? Oh yeah, before I had a lathe, I welded up a new handle here. Let's make sure you guys can actually see what I'm pointing at. Not really. So yeah, this handle is just a weldment. So I bought a piece of cold rolled and another piece and cut it into 2 slugs, welded it together, and just on the grinder kind of beveled the edges so that it wasn't sharp. But yeah, so there's my main bench vise. Has been really, really, really good. Love Wilton bullets. Just having the screw and everything completely contained so it doesn't get all garbaged up is worth the money, even though these are more expensive than a cheaper Craftsman type mechanics vise or something like that. So on to number 2. So here's something I can definitely not live without. These are scrubs in a bucket hand cleaner towels. These are made by a company called ITW Pro Brands. I actually started buying these just on kind of a curiosity experiment, if you will. Went on Amazon and tried to find something that was, basically like a baby wipe for the shop. Something that was disposable, just to clean my hands. I don't have a sink in here at the moment. Working on that soon, but didn't have a way to clean my hands other than just a regular blue shop towels. So I tried these out and I've been buying them ever since. You can get them from Amazon either as a single like this, or you can get a smaller bucket of them. This is 72 towels. I think you can get them like 48 towels, or you can buy them in the case of 6, which is what I do. You can also get these at MSC. That's where I buy them now. And these things are fantastic. So pop up one at a time. Nice little resealable containers so they don't dry out. Even in the back of the truck, keep a bucket of these and they don't get dried out, which is great because they are kind of, it is a water soluble cleaner agent, whatever, on the towels. So if you look at the towels closely, they're kind of rough, a little bit bumpy, if you will, on one side, and then on the other side is pretty smooth. So if you need to wipe your face or something, you can wipe it with this side and it won't, scratch you up. Like this side is great. It gets down into the pores of your fingers so you can really get all the grit out. The nicest part about these is that the junk stays on the towel. So you clean something nasty or clean your hands up that are all greasy, it actually pulls the grease off and sticks to the towel, and you don't just kind of smear it around on your hands. So these things are fantastic. They also have like a lanolin product or something in there. You can kind of smell it. It's like an orangey, I don't know, it's kind of a unique smell, but they smell nice, and they won't dry your hands out, which is kind of nice. So you don't get using 10 of these in one day, your fingers don't start splitting open because they're so dried out. So anyway, can't recommend these enough. I go through a bunch of them, and I will continue buying them. They are just really that good. So here's number 3. This is my Wisoda 1 horsepower bench grinder that I converted into actually I guess it started off as a buffing machine. Didn't have any guards or anything with it. I got this for really cheap. I think I paid $80 for it, which around here is a steal. And I don't do a whole lot of buffing, but what I do a lot of is paint removal, grime removal, rust removal off of parts. And so this is the way to go. Wire wheel on one side. This is not super coarse, but it's not fine either. Buying a high quality one makes a huge difference in how often the wires fly off into your face. Obviously, a guard would be great, and maybe I'll build one at some point as a nice project to basically just have kind of the bottom third open on the bottom so that crap and the little, the loose tines go either into the metal guard or straight down. But in the meantime, I've had good luck just using it as is. Obviously, you got to be super careful with something like this. This is a hand wrecker, no gloves, and face shield and eyeglasses. That's kind of my thing. My eyes are way too valuable to me to risk ruining them just to do a shop project. So anyway, just put a little, turn down a little Delrin cap on the end of the threads here so that those didn't grab on anything on accident. And then on this side is a 3M Scotch-Brite wheel. This is a deburring wheel. It's an EXL, and that thing is fantastic for polishing materials. It's a deburring wheel, so yeah, it does remove a bit of metal. You can't get too crazy on things, but it does a great job at just brightening things up and polishing them. And this stand was actually given to me by a buddy. We kind of share each other's skills, and he's got some pipe fitters at his company that will make him a stand, and this one he didn't really need, so he passed it on to me. Let me step back here just a little bit and show you. So that thing is made out of 2 huge pipe flanges. Each of those is about 1.5 inches thick, and then a big heavy piece of pipe. And it was a 1/2-inch plate on there that I actually welded on there for him, and it kind of bowed. I wasn't being very careful, so I put another 1/2-inch plate on there, so we've got a nice 1-inch thick piece of metal there. The stand alone, I don't know, probably weighs 175 pounds, something like that. And then the grinder on top, and it runs nice and smooth. A little bit of a windstorm, as you would expect. But yeah, this one I need to rebalance these wheels. Turn that off. See, you hear it? That's the only vibration it gets is when it slows down. Because of those flanges, this has just got those like pressed steel flanges you can buy, because the center hole of the deburring wheel is actually, I think, 5 inches. And obviously the arbor on the pedestal grinder is like 7/8. So anyway, I'll have to fix something there. I made some little turned aluminum ones just to beef it up, but that didn't seem to help enough. So anyway, that's another project, but this thing I could not live without for sure. For those of you that don't have good shop air or a high capacity air compressor like that, I don't know how you do it. I use air tools constantly. I use compressed air all the time for blowing things off. Cooling myself down every once in a while. You get really hot, you put the air nozzle down inside your shirt and just really helps you feel comfortable. This is a 5 horsepower single phase M-Glow. So if you recognize the color and the letter color, they're now owned by Jenny air compressors. This one's made in America. This is from about 97, I think. I bought it. It was a 3-phase machine. I put a new motor on it, a starter from eBay. That's actually made in Alabama, I believe. New air filters, changed the oil, and it's been perfect ever since. So this is actually wired directly from the starter all the way back to the panel, so there's no plugs or anything anywhere. So I just wanted to minimize any chance of problems. This thing obviously draws a ton of amperage when it starts. I'd love to get a soft start one, but I don't know if that's realistic or not. And then down at the bottom, the water drain is copper piping that I sweated together, and then it runs outside. So to drain the water out of the bottom of the tank, just open the valve down there, and it shoots it out into the backyard and isn't noisy and doesn't make a mess, which is nice. So anyway, shop air, incredibly important. I've got this awesome Reelcraft hose reel. I've got another one that I need to hang up on the other side of the shop by the milling machine, and that is, it's worth getting a nice high quality one. That one's made in America, some crazy long warranty, but I don't expect it ever failing in the time I own it. And then I've got a regulator here, and this is my little coil hose with my coil hose pneumatics Typhoon gun. So this is OSHA compliant. All the air comes out the periphery, not the center, so you don't get quite as bad when it goes down into a hole, making that horrible whistling. So anyway, that one's at full pressure, and then the regulator, this one's usually set at 90. Having good, clean shop air is just critical for doing anything. Unfortunately, around here, when the humidity is at 5–10%, my air hose never has water in it, which is really nice. If you had nice humid air in Florida or something like that, you definitely have to do something to mitigate that moisture, but I'm pretty lucky here in Phoenix. So yeah, could not live without a good, high-quality air compressor. To go along with the big shop air compressor, also couldn't live without my air tools. So these are my most frequently used ones. I've got some more in the big green toolboxes, but angle die grinder, straight die grinder, cutting disc, put wire wheels on these guys, put roll lock abrasive pads and sanding discs. Just so useful, especially restoring machines. I'm working on a project right now that I'm filming for you guys, and this is the first thing I'll grab to start getting some rust off after we take it out of the vinegar bath. Just so useful. This guy here, that's a trick I learned from Adam Booth. He and Keith Fenner use it all the time. Basically just a 1/4-inch piece of round bar with a hacksawed end on it, so you just feed your little shop roll in there, and that's really useful for sanding the inside of a bore to clean it up or get it on size or whatever. So that's all hanging on my stainless steel ZT. Actually, I think that's the carbon steel one, but anyway, ZT Fab shop organizer with some bottle holders on the top, and then my most frequently used air tools hanging on the bottom. All right, machinists that don't know how to weld, I don't know how you do it. I actually learned how to weld first. I got on YouTube and found Jody's channel, Welding Tips and Tricks, and started learning before I even owned a welder. Decided it was something I really wanted to do and figured, hey, if I can learn how to TIG weld, I can learn how to do everything else. So I started off with the Chinese machine there on the bottom. You see it's an AHP Alpha TIG 200X. And it's been everything I've needed for sure, especially for like 750 bucks. I got that in like December of 2015. And it has taught me a ton, and I haven't outgrown it yet. Maybe someday I'll get a big stonkin' Miller Dynasty or something like that. That'd be amazing. But for now, that is the welder that I need, and it does a great job. After that, I got the Miller Matic 211. It's a little MIG machine. Both of those are inverter machines. Both work great, no complaints at all, but I could not live without welding. Being able to repair boo-boos on the machines. You know, if I mess something up in the lathe or the mill, I can repair it and machine the welds off or whatever. Building things, obviously use the TIG machine to build the welding cart. So that is another great product from ZT Fab that I'm very happy with. It's got the blue, I can't remember who makes those. Anyway, the TIG tubes, got a whole bunch of different kinds and sizes of rods in there, and then 2 air tanks, an argon, and then a mixed tank for the MIG. So anyway, could not live without Welders, and it really is fun to melt metal together, and it's just a cool process, and it takes a lot to be any good at it. I'm not, but I always keep trying. Another super useful tool that I rely on is my Carolina 30-ton press. I got this kind of at a scrap machine dealer. It didn't have any table pins, it didn't have the bottle jack. It was kind of lacking, but I bought it for fairly cheap and brought it home, made some press plates, added the eBay, it's a Chinese special, which is kind of a bummer, but anyway, it is a air over hydraulic jack that works great. It's not super fast, but it was really cheap, which is nice. And then made some press plates out of 1-inch cold rolled. So I actually chucked those up in the 4-jaw and bored the holes, bored one hole, flipped it over, and bored the small holes. So that's really nice for pressing bearings off and stuff like that. And then got my very first experience turning down alloy steel. This is, what did I use there? Anyway, that's an alloy steel for the 2 table pins, super strong obviously. And this thing gets used a lot. It's not something you use every single day, but man, when you need a hydraulic press and you don't have one, what are you going to do? Beating on things with a hammer only does so much for you. So another super handy tool in the shop. For all you machinists out there that don't have good quality hand tools, mechanics tools, I don't understand how you do it, because high quality hand tools and a good assortment of them make the difference between frustration and getting the job done easily and quickly. I'm a huge fan of Snap-on and love using their hand tools. It's not practical for everything just because of the cost, but man, buying used on Craigslist can go a long way to getting yourself completely set up with super high quality tools that can make your life just so much easier. Can't say enough about getting high quality hand tools and not messing around with junk from Harbor Freight that doesn't fit quite right and doesn't work quite right. And anyway, I'm a big proponent of high quality tools. So this is what I'm talking about when I say high quality mechanics hand tools. Yeah, these are used for working on cars for sure. That's why I've got so much metric stuff. But just working on machines, taking things apart is, I don't know, the difference is huge when you compare this to even my old Craftsman stuff that I had. Some of it was after Craftsman started making stuff overseas, but the Snap-on quality is just immense. Something like this right here, it's one of my favorite hand tools. That's a Snap-on round head ratchet. I believe 100 teeth or 104 teeth or something like that. So you don't have to swing it very far to make the bolt move. But anyway, so there's my 3/8 and 1/4 inch Snap-on stuff. Use everything in here all the time. Do take care of it so it doesn't look all nasty and dirty. I wipe my tools down before I put them away, and don't just beat on them with hammers. But as you can see, having good tools is important to me. Here's something recent I picked up that has become invaluable to the shop, and it's a materials lift from Genie. This is on the recommendation of James Kilroy. He's got one like this, and I saw it on his channel looking back through some of his older videos and just decided, man, that would really come in handy. Let me see if I can find one. And I grabbed this one on Craigslist for pretty cheap. I think I paid 180 bucks for it. Maybe it was $200. Not too bad considering a new one costs like $1,200. And I did go ahead and replace the cable on it because I did have an accident, and maybe I'll put a fresh picture up of right when that injury happened, of the carriage coming down on my hand, between my hand and one of the plates there. Anyway, it was not good, but all is well. I'm all healed up. And anyway, this thing comes in really handy, lifting up to 1,000, I'm sorry, not 1,000 pounds, but it will lift up 500 pounds. And it's just a hand-operated, basically a little winch. And so you load your stuff up, and then just crank the handle up. So this is going to be really nice for getting the rotary table, the super spacer up onto the mill table, so that you don't have to, bust your back trying to get it up there. I've loaded the back of the truck with some heavy items with this thing. I've unloaded the truck, getting some heavy stuff out of it. I've unloaded the trunk of my car when I bought the Burr King. It's already come in super handy, and I will continue to use this. It's got a steel platform, but those are basically forklift forks on it, so you can take that platform off and use it like a little baby forklift. And like I said, this was a great idea. Thanks, Mr. James Kilroy. And if you see one on Craigslist for a reasonable price, I would highly recommend it for your shop. Well, thanks for tuning in and checking out my video on tools and some of the stuff that is most important to me in my shop. I hope you'll subscribe and hit the like button, leave a comment, help me out, make me feel like these are worth doing, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.